The debris field had no name on any current star chart. The conquered fleet called it the Asheville Corridor because that was what the old war maps called it, and nobody had bothered to rename a graveyard. Commander Wren stood with his hands behind his back and watched the scanner feed. His fleet was running a routine patrol sweep. 6 ships standard formation. Nothing expected. The corridor was dead space. Everyone agreed on that. 3 wars had been fought near it, and 3 wars had left behind enough wreckage to fill a small moon. Nothing lived there. Nothing moved there. Then the signal came. His comms officer, a young Draki named Solus, pulled it up on the main screen. She did not say anything at first. She just stared at the frequency pattern. The way someone stares at a word they recognize but cannot quite read. "Commander," she said slowly. "This is a UNDF encoding for the human military, but the format is old." Wren leaned forward. "How old is it?" So ran the comparison. 40 years at minimum. This frequency was retired after the Asheville War. It should not exist anywhere in active use. The bridge went quiet. Every crew member heard that. Every crew member understood what it meant to find a dead signal suddenly breathing. Wren opened a channel to Fleet Command without hesitation. He read the frequency data aloud and waited. The response took 4 minutes longer than normal, which told him something was already wrong on that end. When the reply came, it was short. The voice on the other end belonged to a senior fleet officer, and it carried the kind of flatness that people use when they are genuinely scared but trained not to show it. "Do not engage. Do not hail. Pull back to a safe distance and wait for further instruction." Wren did not pull back. He held position and looked at spies. "Run a full passive scan of the debris field. Deep range. I want to know what is in there." So I ran the scan. It took 90 seconds. When the results came back, she read them twice before speaking. "There is something large in the debris field, Commander. Moving slowly. It is using very low power, almost no emissions. If it were any quieter, we would have missed it entirely." She paused. "Hull mass reads at approximately 4 million tons." Someone at the tactical station made a sound that was not quite a word. 4 million tons was not a patrol ship. 4 million tons was not a freighter. 4 million tons was a thing that existed to end wars, not fight in them. Wren pulled up the historical database himself. He searched for UNDF vessels matching that mass class. The results were thin. Most were listed as destroyed, scrapped, or decommissioned. One class matched the profile Titan-class siege carriers. The database entry was short, almost reluctant. 7 ships were built. 7 ships listed as lost or destroyed during the Asheville War. The notes at the bottom of the entry had been added by a historian and said simply, "These vessels were never intended for prolonged peacetime operation. Classification Legacy Threat Asset." So ran the Hull signature against the archive. It took longer this time. The database was reaching into records that had not been touched in decades, pulling up old transponder keys and encrypted identification codes that nobody had thought to delete because nobody had thought they would ever be needed again. The match came back. UNDF Relentless Titan Class Siege Carrier Crew Complement 340. Last confirmed position, Asheville Engagement Final Day of Combat Operations. Status destroyed. Wren read the word destroyed and looked at his scanner feed where something 4 million tons in size was very clearly not destroyed. So I turned in her seat. "Commander, it is moving toward open space toward the inner systems." The ship emerged from the debris field slowly, the way something massive always moves, not with speed, but with an absolute certainty that speed was unnecessary. Hull plating that had once been smooth was scarred and patched and scorched. Running lights flickered in uneven patterns. Several weapons arrays were dark, but the silhouette was unmistakable to anyone who had studied wartime records, long and flat, and built with the kind of deliberate brutality that made other ships feel like toys. It was enormous. Not in the way that freighters were enormous, bulky, and rounded and full of cargo. This was enormous the way a wall is enormous when you are standing directly in front of it. Every line of its hull said the same thing without words. It said, "I was built for one reason, and that reason is still inside me." The conquered ships had gone completely silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Wren counted 6 active weapon systems he could identify at current scan range. There were almost certainly more that passive scanning could not detect. He thought about the Admiral's order, pull back, wait. And he thought about the fact that this ship had emerged from a debris field where it had been sitting undetected for an unknown amount of time. It had not fired. It had not hailed anyone. It had not changed course toward them. It was simply moving, patient, slow, and vast. Sols opened her mouth to say something and stopped. She tried again. What do we do? Ren kept his eyes on the screen. The Relentless continued its slow turn toward the inner systems, toward populated space, toward 40 years of history that had been written without it. He had no good answer to her question. He had standing orders that said, wait. He had a scanner feed that said something impossible was happening. And he had the instinct settling in his chest like a stone that whatever this ship was doing out here, it had been doing it for a very long time. He pulled up the comms panel and began composing a hail. Nobody on the conquered fleet had seen the inside of a Titan class before. Most of them had only seen the name in history books, usually in a paragraph that ended with words like decisive engagement or total system loss. Fleet historian Orvad had seen more than that. Orvad was old enough to remember the war, not the sanitized version taught inmates with clean maps and casualty numbers rendered as statistics. The actual war with the actual noise of it. He was a Pelosi, which meant he was small and pale and moved carefully, and people often forgot he was in the room. He had spent 40 years being forgotten in rooms, and in that time he had read every document the conquered archives held on human military history during the Asheville conflict. When Solus pulled up the Relentless record and showed it to him, he sat down without being asked. I had hoped, he said quietly, that this particular file would stay closed. Ren stood across the table from him. Tell me what you know. Orvad looked at the ship on the scanner feed for a long moment. The Titan class was not a standard warship. Standard warships are built to operate within a fleet. They depend on supply. Chains, on repair docks, on coordination with other vessels. The Titans were built for something different. He paused. They were built for the scenario where everything else had already failed. He pulled up the technical history on the briefing screen. The specs were staggering even by current standards. Reinforced hull plating rated for direct energy weapon contact. Redundant power cores that could keep the ship running at reduced capacity indefinitely. Autonomous repair drones capable of handling most structural damage without human intervention. Weapon systems that could be operated by a skeleton crew of 30 if necessary. The crew were specialists, Orv continued. Not fleet soldiers. These were people selected specifically because they could function psychologically, physically in total isolation for extended periods. The mission profile for a Titan-class deployment was open-ended. No extraction timeline, no guaranteed resupply. You went in. You completed the objective and you found your own way back. So I spoke up from her station. The record says the Relentless was destroyed in the final Asheville engagement. Orv turned toward her slowly. The record says that because the alternative was admitting that a ship of that classification had simply vanished and no one knew where it went. A destroyed ship is a closed file. A missing ship with that weapon's payload is a problem that keeps senior officers awake at night. Ren looked at the scanner feed. The Relentless was still moving slowly, unhurried, that enormous hull cutting through the dark. You think it has been out here this whole time? I think Orvet said carefully that I would prefer not to speculate until we know more. The comms panel lit up. So checked it immediately, then turned around with an expression Ren had not seen on her face before. Commander, the Relentless just responded to your hail. The bridge went silent again. Ren crossed to the panel on the screen. In plain text was a single line. Identify yourself and your allegiance. No audio, no visual, just text transmitted in old UNDFN coding through a communications protocol that predated the current standard by 4 decades. Ren stuttered it. The phrasing was deliberate. Not who are you. Identify yourself in your allegiance. A wartime challenge. The kind of thing you ask when you do not know if the ship in front of you is friendly or not. When you are deciding whether to raise shields or lower them. He typed his reply carefully. He gave his name, his rank, the name of his vessel, the Conquered Fleet registry number, and a brief statement of mission peacekeeping patrol. No hostile intent. He transmitted it and waited. The wait was 4 minutes and 17 seconds. Then the text came back. 3 lines this time. Conquered registry confirmed. Tahari command structure noted. Stand by. Ren turned to look at Orvad. The historian had not moved from his chair. He was watching the scanner feed with the expression of someone watching something they had spent a long time trying not to think about. They confirmed our registry, Ren said. That means they have access to current databases. Or they captured one sometime in the last decade and have been updating their own records. Orv folded his hands. Commander, I want to be precise about something. Whatever condition that crew is in, however long they have been out here, the Relentless is still a functional Titan class. Those weapons arrays that appear dark may simply be powered down, not destroyed. I would not assume that the ship is weakened simply because it looks weathered. From the tactical station, a quiet voice. Commander, the Relentless just ran an active scan on us. Not a passive scan. Active. The kind that measures hull integrity, weapon charge levels, shield capacity, the kind that tells you exactly what you are dealing with before you decide what to do next. Ren straightened. He was not afraid exactly, but he was very aware in a way that settled somewhere behind his ribs that something had just assessed his fleet and found it very small. The comms panel lit up one more time. This time there was audio. A voice came through, rough, weathered, carrying the particular exhaustion of someone who had not slept well in a very long time, possibly measured in years. It said 4 words. Is the war over? Ren had prepared for many possible first words from that ship. A threat, a demand, a warning shot followed by silence. He had not prepared for a question asked in a voice that sounded like it had been waiting a very long time to ask it. He answered without hesitation. Yes, the Asheville War ended 41 years ago. The silence on the other end lasted long enough that Sols checked the channel twice to make sure it was still open. Then who won? Ren looked at Orvad. The historian gave a small careful nod. Tell him the truth. There was no victor, Ren said. A ceasefire was negotiated. The Morn Station offensive collapsed the Asheville Coalition supply chain. After that, both sides agreed to terms. The war ended in a treaty, not a surrender. Another long pause. Then the voice said, "What are the terms?" It was not a question. It was the voice of someone who had spent decades operating under orders and needed to know if those orders still applied. Ren pulled up the treaty summary and read the key points aloud. Territorial boundaries, demilitarized zones, the conquered peacekeeping mandate that had grown out of the post-war framework. He spoke slowly and clearly because something about the voice on the other end made him want to be precise. When he finished, the line was quiet again. Then you said 41 years. Yes. We have been running mission clock since deployment. Our clock reads 43 years, 2 months, and some days. We lost track of exact days around year 30. A pause. There may be some drift. Orvad inhaled sharply. Soli stopped what she was doing and turned around. Even the tactical officer, a large and generally unreadable Tahari named Brest, went very still. 43 years. They had been out there for 43 years. Ren kept his voice level. Can I ask your name and rank? Captain Dale, UNDF Relentless. Although I suppose if the war is over, the UNDF command structure that gave me my commission no longer exists in the same form. It has changed, yes, but human military tradition. I know about tradition. The voice was not sharp, just tired. Commander, I need to ask you something directly. We have been picking up defense grid responses since we entered the outer systems. Automated weapons locks. 3 stations went on a combat alert as we passed. We have not fired on anything. We have not changed course toward any populated system. We are moving toward human space on the most direct route available. Another pause. Why is the galaxy reacting to us like we are an invasion? Ren turned to Brest. The tactical officer had already pulled up the relevant data. He showed it to Ren on a handheld screen, a map of the outer system stations, each one flagged with an alert status. The Relentless had passed within range of 7 automated defense platforms. All 7 had triggered combat protocols. The reason was straightforward. Those platforms were old systems, never fully updated after the war. They carried threat databases from the Asheville period. A Titan-class UNDF siege carrier on that database was not a peacetime vessel passing through. It was a Category 1 hostile contact. Ren explained this to Dale. The response was quiet, so the war ended, but the guns still remember it. They were never updated. The platforms are considered legacy infrastructure. There has been discussion about replacing them for years, but nobody thought it was urgent because nobody expected a Titan to come back. Dale said it without bitterness, just a flat acknowledgement of the situation. That is correct. A long exhale on the other end of the line. Commander, I have 190 crew on this ship. The youngest among them is 54 years old. They are not soldiers looking for a fight. They are people who want to go home. I need to know if that is going to be a problem. Ren thought about the Admiral's orders. He thought about the combat alert platforms. He thought about the 4 million tons of warship moving patiently through space toward inhabited systems, flagged hostile by every automated system it passed, and the voice on the other end of the comm channel asking if going home was going to be a problem. He made a decision. I am going to contact Fleet Command and explain the situation. While I do that, I would ask that you continue on your current course and speed, make no aggressive movements, and keep this channel open. He paused. Captain Dale, for what it is worth, the war has been over for 41 years. You are not an enemy. The silence on the other end was different this time, shorter. When Dale spoke again, his voice had changed in a way that was hard to name, not softer exactly, but something in it had shifted. We will keep the channel open. Ren closed the secondary channel and turned to his bridge. Every face was watching him. Even Orvad had straightened in his chair. Swa spoke first. 54 is the youngest. That means when they left, some of them were barely adults. Some of them were recruits, Orv said quietly. The Titan-class deployment rosters included trainees, people who had been in service for less than a year. Nobody said anything after that. The math was not complicated. Someone had left on that ship as a young person barely old enough to serve and was now on the other side of middle age, still on the same ship, still following the last orders they had been given. Ren looked at the scanner feed. The relentlessness moved on. There is a particular kind of silence that settles over a room when everyone in it is doing the same mental calculation and arriving at the same answer. The conquered bridge had that silence. Now Ren let it sit for a moment. Then he told Souls to set up a secure communication line. Not the open channel to Dale, but a structured link. The kind used for extended conversations where both sides need to speak at length. He told Orvad to stay. When the link was ready, he asked Dale to tell him what happened. The story came out in pieces, the way long stories always do when the person telling them has not told it before. Dale did not rush. He spoke in short sentences, paused often, and sometimes went quiet for a while before continuing. Ren listened without interrupting. On the last day of the Asheville War's final engagement, the Relentless had been ordered into a deep strike position against a coalition weapons platform. They had gone in ahead of the main fleet. Standard Titan-class deployment. Go where the big ships cannot. Hit what needs to be hit. Hold until the line moves up. What nobody had told them, because nobody had fully understood it yet, was that the coalition platform they were targeting was not a standard installation. It was an experimental spatial disruption array. The coalition had been testing it. When the Relentless fired on it, the platform did not just explode. It tore a hole in the space around it. Dale described it the way you describe something for which no good words exist. A moment of light that was also dark. A sound the ship's hull made that was not a sound. A sensation of being pulled in a direction that had no name. And then nothing. And then they were somewhere else. The stars were wrong. Every navigation reference they had was useless. The comms were dead, not damaged, just receiving nothing because there was nothing close enough to receive from. The fold, whatever it was, had dropped them at the edge of the mapped galaxy in a region so remote that the nearest star system with a name was 4 years of travel at standard cruise speed. They had two choices. Stay where they were and wait for rescue that would never come because nobody knew where they were, or start moving. They moved. The autonomous repair systems kept the ship functional. But systems are not the same as crew, and crew are not machines. In the first year, 6 people died from injuries sustained in the fold event. In the third year, there was a period Dale called the difficult months without elaborating, and Ren did not ask. By year 10, they had established a rhythm, work schedules, rest rotations, small routines that gave shape to time. They grew food in 3 converted cargo bays. They repurposed materials from non-essential systems to keep essential ones running. They became, as Dale put it, very good at fixing things. Every year on the anniversary of their departure date, Dale held a crew vote. Ren asked what the vote was about. Whether to keep going, Dale said. I was not going to force anyone to keep pushing toward a home they might never reach. Every year I put it to a vote. Every year they voted to continue. So she stopped pretending to work at her station. She was just listening. Every year Ren said 42 votes, 42 unanimous results. A pause. The 31st year was the closest. We had lost 14 people that year. Hull breach in Section 7. Cold exposure. 2 medical cases we could not handle properly. The vote was still unanimous. He paused again longer this time. I think by that point going home was not really about home anymore. It was about the fact that we had said we were going home and we were not going to stop saying it. Orvad had his hands folded on the table and was looking at them. 150 people did not make it back. Wren said 150. Yes. Dale's voice was even, not cold, even the voice of someone who had processed the numbers so many times it had stopped being sharp. We have a record of each of them. Full service histories, personal logs if they kept them, last entries. We have their names on a wall near the mess. The wall runs the full length of the corridor. Now Wren wanted to ask another question, but found he did not have one. There was nothing to ask that the silence had not already answered. After a moment, Dale spoke again unprompted. Commander, I appreciate the conversation, but I have to ask, are you going to stop us? Officially, I mean, because I am aware that our arrival has created some kind of situation. I am aware we are being flagged by every automated system we pass. I understand if there are procedures. Wren thought about how to answer that. There will be procedures, he said. I cannot promise they will be fast or simple, but I am not going to stop you. Then we will keep moving. Wren closed the extended channel and sat in his chair for a moment without speaking. Nobody on the bridge spoke either. Outside on the scanner, the Relentless continued its slow and patient journey inward. 4 million tons of stubborn intention moving through the dark. Swa said very quietly. I looked up how far they travelled. Wren looked at her. 11,400 light-years give or take. She paused the long way. By the time the story reached the inner system news relays, it had already changed 3 times. The first version said a rogue human warship had emerged from the Asheville corridor and was moving toward populated space, ignoring all hails. The second version, correcting the first, said the ship had responded to hails but refused to stop. The third version, which was the one spreading fastest when Admiral Ferris arrived, said the UNDF Relentless had come back from the dead and was coming home after 43 years, and half the galaxy did not know how to feel about that. Ferris was a conquered admiral. Tahari, like Wren, but older and with the particular posture of someone who had spent a career making difficult things look like straightforward decisions. He came aboard Wren's ship with 2 aides in a very clipped manner, reviewed the communication logs in 20 minutes, and then told Wren that the situation was simple. The Relentless is an unregistered military vessel. Ferris said it carries no current treaty documentation. Its weapon systems are active and charged. Under post-war law, it cannot enter patrolled space without inspection and processing. That is not a political position. That is the law. Wren said, ADM, the crew has been in space for over 4 decades. The crew's history does not change the vessel's legal status. Ferris turned to look at the scanner feed. The Relentless was still moving, still slow, still enormous. I am not unsympathetic. But if I allow that ship to proceed without inspection, I am setting a precedent that military vessels from any era can simply reappear and claim safe passage based on emotional circumstances. Wren did not argue further. He opened the channel to Dale instead and told him what Ferris had said. There was a pause on the other end. Then Dale said, Tell the Admiral we will accept inspection. Send your team. We will cooperate with every procedure. Ferris raised an eyebrow when Wren relayed this. He had clearly expected more resistance. One condition, Dale continued. We do not stop the ship. Inspectors can board while we are underway. We will make them comfortable and answer every question they have, but we are not stopping. Ferris looked at Wren. Wren looked at the scanner feed. Can it actually fight through our fleet? Ferris asked. Yes, Wren said. He said it without drama because there was no point in drama when the answer was that simple. Ferris was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Fine, moving inspection. Send a team. The inspection shuttle was small against the Relentless hull, a speck of light approaching something the size of a city. The team was 4 people. 2 Concord compliance officers, 1 weapons assessor named TK, and a junior Draki lieutenant named Chorus, who had been included because she spoke the best standard human dialect on the fleet, and someone thought that might matter. Dale met them at the docking bay personally. He was shorter than Chorus had expected and older, white-haired, broad-shouldered, moving with the careful deliberateness of someone whose joints had made peace with hard years. He was wearing a uniform that had been repaired so many times it was more repaired than the original fabric. He shook each of their hands. Carurus had not expected that. He assigned a crew member to escort each inspector to their relevant area. He gave them full access without being asked. He answered questions in complete sentences. When Trick, the weapons assessor, asked to see the primary battery controls, Dale walked him there himself. The relentless interior was not what any of them had expected. Carurus had been assigned general documentation, logging the ship's condition, cross-referencing with the technical specs in the archive. She started at the bow and worked back. In the first corridor she entered, someone had painted the walls. Not military markings, actual paintings, a landscape, something with hills and a body of water and a sky rendered in colors that must have taken a long time to mix from whatever was available. The proportions were not quite right, and the style was clearly a Moore, but it covered the entire corridor wall from floor to ceiling. In the next section, she found a food cultivation bay. It was dim and carefully organized with plants growing under artificial light in containers made from repurposed equipment casing. Someone had labeled each container in small, careful handwriting. Not just the plant name, the planting date, the yield history, small notes about which batch had grown best and why. She passed a workspace where two crew members, both clearly in their 60s, were rebuilding something mechanical with the focused quiet of people who had done similar work 10,000 times. They glanced up at her. One of them nodded. She nodded back. Near the engineering section, she found the wall. It was exactly as Dale had described, the full length of a long corridor, names written in rows, small and neat. At the bottom of each column of names was a date range. Years of service. She did not count, but the wall was long and the names were many and they went all the way to the end. Cora stood there for longer than she needed to. When she filed her section of the inspection report 2 hours later, she wrote, "Vessel shows significant where consistent with stated operational period. All systems are functional. Crew cooperative. No evidence of hostile intent or capability being held in readiness for offensive use." She paused at the notes field and typed one additional line. "Recommend expedited processing." Ferris read the report. He did not respond to the note, but when Wren checked the formal status update that evening, the Relentless had been moved from an authorized military vessel hold pending review to legacy asset humanitarian passage. It was not a full clearance, but it was enough to keep moving. And the Relentless kept moving. The threshold was not marked on any map with ceremony. It was a line in space defined by treaty coordinates and administrative convention. The edge of conquered monitored territory and the beginning of what was formally recognized as human sovereign space. Ships crossed it every day without paying attention. The Relentless reached it on a Tuesday. Wren had not slept much in the last 30 hours. He had been on the bridge for most of it, not because there was anything pressing to manage, but because he found he did not want to be anywhere else. He had been watching this ship move for days now. He wanted to see it finish. Word had spread through the conquered fleet without any announcement. Crew members who were off shift had found reasons to be on the bridge or in observation lounges. The 6 ships of the patrol group had quietly adjusted formation without being ordered to, pulling into a loose parallel course alongside the Relentless, not blocking, not escorting, just present. Ferris was still aboard Ren Quote-Sip. He had said very little since the inspection. He stood at the back of the bridge now, arms crossed, watching the scanner feed. Wren opened the channel to Dale. "Captain, you are approaching the boundary of human space. Approximately 4 minutes at current speed." A short pause. "We see it. How is your crew?" A longer pause this time. "They have been standing at the viewports for the last 2 hours," Dale said. "The ones who can stand." Wren thought about that. 190 people, elderly now, pressed against the viewports of a ship that had been their entire world for 43 years. Watching a line in space get closer. He thought about what to say and could not think of anything adequate. He settled for the truth. "We will hold formation with you until you cross. You do not have to do that." "I know." The 4 minutes passed slowly. At 90 seconds out, Soles turned from her console. "Commander, I am picking up traffic on the civilian relay bands." She frowned at her screen. A lot of traffic. Wren looked. She was right. The news relays had been covering the Relentless approach for days, and apparently the coverage had done something unexpected. Ships were gathering on the far side of the threshold, Not fleet ships as civilian vessels, freighters, transports, personal craft. A passenger liner that had no navigational reason to be anywhere near this region. They were just sitting there on the human side of the border in no particular formation. Waiting. Wren counted 17 vessels before he stopped counting. Dale came back on the channel. "Commander, we are reading civilian craft on the other side of the boundary." "Yes, I see them." A pause. "What are they doing out here?" "I believe," Wren said slowly, "they wanted to be here." The silence on the relentless end lasted a long time. At 30 seconds out, Wren did something he had not planned to do and could not have explained if asked. He opened the fleet-wide channel, all 6 conquered ships, every crew member on every deck, and said nothing. He just left it open. Someone on one of the other ships started it. A slow rhythmic sound, both hands together over and over. Then a second voice joined it. Then a third. Across 6 ships and hundreds of crew members, the sound built on itself. Tahari, Draki, Peely, every species in the patrol group clapping for a ship that could not hear it because that was not the point. Ferris uncrossed his arms. The relentlessness crossed the threshold. There was no dramatic moment, no flash of light, no ceremony, just a line in space and a ship crossing it and the number on the navigation display changing from one side's coordinates to the other. On the civilian relay band, someone began broadcasting without narration, just a live feed of the relentless moving through the enormous scarred hull catching the light of the nearby star, those patched weapons arrays and those flickering running lights, and the sheer battered fact of it still being here. Dale Quote's voice came through the channel. He was not speaking to Wren specifically. It sounded like he had forgotten the channel was open. Or perhaps he did not care. He was speaking to his crew. "That's home," he said. "We are home." Wren heard other voices in the background on the relentless quiet voices. Some of them caught the sound of people who had held something tightly for a very long time and were finally, very carefully beginning to put it down. Orvad had come to the bridge at some point in the last hour. He was standing near the rear wall, very still, and Wren noticed that the old historian's eyes were wet. He did not call attention to it. The relentless continued through and into human space, the civilian ships parting to let it pass, and then falling into loose formation behind it. An unplanned, uncoordinated procession of vessels that had simply decided to be there. Wren watched until the ship was too far to track well on close-range scanners. Then he looked at Spies. She was smiling. She looked like she had been trying not to and had given up. "What do you want to put in the report?" she asked. Wren thought about it. He thought about everything he had seen and heard in the last several days. The signal in the debris field. The voice asking if the war was over. The wall of names. The vote was held every year for 42 years. The old man in the repaired uniform shaking hands at his own docking bay. "Write it accurately," he said. "All of it. Don't leave anything out." He looked at the scanner one more time. The relentless was a fatting signature now moving deeper into human space, getting smaller. It did not look small.